Hey guys, and welcome to another huge episode of Triggered. I hope you all had an incredible Thanksgiving. So much to be grateful for, so much to get into, so much to cover. The Democrats have apparently found their new resistance heroes, the narco-terrorists. Yes, normally I'd say drum roll, wait for it, but honestly, you knew it was coming, right? First, it was MS-13 gang members. Then it was Christopher Steele and the PP dossier. Then it was left-wing domestic terrorists. Then it was Marilyn Dead, who was also in MS-13. And a million other grifters in between. But the left always seems to come full circle when it comes to defending criminals. So here is where we are. And guys, we're going to get into all of it shortly, okay? I just need you to all make sure that you're liking, sharing, subscribing, so you never miss one of these major episodes, okay? Download the Rumble app on your smart TVs. You can watch this on the big screen at home. Remember, if you missed the show here on Rumble, go over to Apple or Spotify, or if your friends get their podcast that way, make sure they are aware. And for all of the top headlines that we cover on the show, go over to my news app, MXM News, where you can get the mainstream news without the mainstream bias. Again, that's like Mike, X-Ray Mike. Go check it out. Again, we want to eliminate the mainstream media's BS. This is the way to do it. Find out what's actually going on. And of course, don't forget about our brave sponsors for having the guts to support this program. That's a big deal. It's important. It's not easy to support this kind of stuff, and to keep it going, support those who share your values. Don't forget about the Birch Gold Group, where you can diversify your savings and protect your future. The Trump administration is moving fast to right all of the left's wrongs. But with all the damage we've seen the Democrats do, it's always smart to be prepared. And that's why thousands of Americans are buying gold now from the Birch Gold Group. Here are the facts. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 30%. And Birch Gold makes it extremely easy to convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Or you can even buy some gold to store in your home safe. Just text my name, Don Jr., D-O-N-J-R, to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, only useful information. It's about learning more and educating yourself. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of protecting your savings today. Again, text my name, Don Jr., D-O-N-J-R, to the number 989898. So, guys, let's get into some of the top headlines. And we're going to begin with the Trump administration, who is actively strengthening America's standing across the world. Not just in Europe, but everywhere. Like I tell you guys all the time, we're seeing respect return to American leadership. We're seeing our allies finally step up and maybe carry some of their own weight. And I think very soon we'll be seeing some of our enemies backing down in a very big way, because we're seeing what peace through strength actually looks like. But Democrats appear to be actively trying to commit sedition by undermining our military and the commander-in-chief. Here's the video we showed you all last week, but I want to play it again, and I want you to listen to their exact words. Listen to it exactly.
Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
who take risks each day.
To keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals.
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
But from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
Or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
The Army,
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Think again about what you just watched. These are sitting members of Congress in uniform telling our military to disobey orders. This isn't resistance, guys. This isn't protest or disagreement. This is sedition, plain and simple. The 6 Democrats who made these videos are Senators Mark Kelly, Eliza Slotkin, along with Representatives Jason Crow, Chris D'Aluzzo, Maggie Goldlander, and Chrissy Houlihan. They can't really explain what the illegal order is. Notice that. They don't really know that, but they're basically telling the troops to question their chain of command anyway. Sorry. It's kind of a sneeze in there. Should we do that again or just let it roll? Anyway, sorry. I don't know. I guess it's cold season. Screw it. We'll just go. And Senator Mark Kelly yesterday doubled down. Listen to what he had to say.
About the legality of what they are being asked to do. So I want to put the question to you. If you were still in uniform, if you received an order to strike suspected drug boats overseas and kill everybody on board, would you refuse that order in real time?
Well, let me start by saying I've sunk 2 boats, 2 ships. I sunk an OSA-2 missile patrol boat in Kuwait Harbor. I sunk a Polnokny troop carrier in the Persian Gulf during the first Gulf War. Never once did I question whether those orders were legal or illegal. People can tell the difference, should be able to tell the difference between something that is unlawful and something that is lawful. And if I was ever given an unlawful order, I would refuse. If you have time, you can certainly go to the judge, advocate generals, the lawyers, and have a discussion about it. If you don't have time, you just say simply, I'm not going to do that. That's against the law.
It puts a lot of burden on the troops to make a decision in real time.
It's a tremendous amount of burden on officers in the military, but that is their responsibility, and they can figure out, a reasonable person can tell something that is legal and something that is illegal.
So would you refuse these specific orders to strike drug boats if you were still in uniform?
Well, the difference between the initial strike and what is being reported, as a second strike, and those things are different. I think this administration has tied themselves in knots, the explanations that we have received on how this is all legal. And I was saying weeks ago, my concern is with the service members, that we're gonna put these individuals in a really, really tough decision, in a tough place. And they may find out, down the road that they did something that is illegal. It is not fair to them. That's why we need presidents and Secretary of Defense who understand the Constitution, who understand the rule of law, and have more respect for the Constitution and the country and service members than the whims of a president.
All right. Senator Mark Kelly, thank you so much for being here in person.
It's clear what they're trying to do, which is to sow division and conflict within our own armed forces. And as I said last week, the question is why? Why is this the red line for Democrats? Why are they willing to engage in literal sedition to try to stop it? Are open borders and drug trafficking somehow essential for their political machine? I mean, you'd almost think it had to be the case. And guess what? Drug deaths are down every single month of my father's second term. It's actually working. Check this out.
For too long, drug cartels have been killing Americans with fentanyl. Hundreds of thousands dead. This stops now. To save American lives, President Trump secured the border, declared war on the cartels, and stopped the flood of fentanyl, taking action to get drug dealers and criminals off our streets. Now, drug deaths are down every single month, thanks to President Trump. The message is clear. We will not rest until we've ended the fentanyl crisis to save American lives.
And the fact is, there must be a chain of command in our military. Since the beginning of our country, we've always respected that until now. Until now, with Democrats. There's a quote that says, "Politics stops at the water's edge." Democrats used to at least pretend to agree with that. But no, TDS has truly infected every corner of their brains. And now, the Department of War has launched an investigation into Kelly that may lead to court-martial proceedings. And here's what's telling. At least one of the Democrat representatives, Chris Deluzio, went on CNN and said that he's not planning to cooperate with the FBI interview. That's interesting. Imagine the roles were reversed. Imagine we didn't cooperate when they went after us, what they would do. So the same Democrats who spent years screaming, "No one is above the law." Remember that one? Day in and day out. That was, "No one is above the law," and the walls are closing in, like the two most poignant soundbites of the last 10 years. They're now refusing to cooperate with federal investigators? Watch for yourself.
Has there been from the FBI so far?
I'll leave that to defer that over to the FBI, but what's been reported out there is they've tried to contact me and the other members for voluntary interviews.
Do you plan on cooperating?
I'm not planning to sit down for a voluntary interview, no.
Oh, why not?
Well, look, everyone in this country has a right to refuse to do that, and I think this is a clear attempt to intimidate us.
And we're seeing how destructive the Democrats' open borders madness really is. After an unvetted Afghanistan refugee terrorist fatally shot our brave National Guard soldiers in D.C. There wasn't any vetting. The Biden administration just let anyone and everyone into the country. And this is what happened. Drugs, crime, and terror. Back in 2021, DHS Secretary Mayorkas was asked about the vetting. And here's exactly how he responded.
Was Afghanistan a successful withdrawal?
Senator, the evacuation that the Department of Defense and the Department of State led was historic in evacuating so many individuals.
Of those that are evacuated, how many of them were vetted before they got on the plane?
Senator, it is our policy to vet.
That's a simple question. How many of them were vetted before they got on the plane?
Out of Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Cannot speak to that, but it is our policy.
Okay. So you can't tell us how many people were vetted before they got on the plane to come to America?
Oh, I'm sorry. If you're speaking of the plane to come to America, let me, if I may, Senator, explain the process. Because we, working with our allies.
Okay, here's a question. Very simple. Those that got on the plane.
For America, it is our policy to.
Please listen to my question.
I apologize.
To those who got on the C-17s and other planes, how many of them were vetted before they got on the plane by American officials?
To the United States, it is our policy to vet and screen 100% of them.
So 100% of those people that got on the plane were vetted. That's your testimony under oath.
It is our policy to do so.
That's not, I don't care what your policy is. I'm asking how many people were vetted before they got on the plane. Do you know the answer?
Senator,
if you don't know, just say I don't know.
Senator, I do not know if anyone boarded a plane that was not fully screened and vetted.
Can you tell me that all the people that got on the plane were vetted?
Absolutely. I can tell you that all of the individuals.
Before they got on the plane.
If I may, Senator, all of the individuals who arrived in the United States have been screened.
That's not, listen, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm trying to ask a simple question. We've had thousands of people that got on C-17s and flew out of the most chaotic situation I've seen since the fall of Saigon. And I'm asking you, before they got on the plane, how many of them were vetted by the United States? Can you tell me what percentage?
Senator, I would posit and I will confirm this, that well over 99% of them were fully screened and vetted before they boarded a flight.
Okay.
If, in fact, any of...
Where do you get that information from?
May I, Senator?
Sure.
If, in fact, they were not, they were screened and vetted while in flight, and if any derogatory information was adduced, they were placed in immigration enforcement proceedings and in removal.
Now, you do know you're under oath. Are
Yes.
you telling this committee under oath that 99% of the people who got on these planes in Afghanistan were vetted by our government before they got on that plane?
I want to be very clear because precision...
Because you're not.
No. Senator, if I may, you are asking me about planes from transit countries, the third countries...
I'm talking about people who got on the plane in Kabul airport.
No, I can't speak to that.
Well, that's okay. Good.
That was the guy in charge of the Biden border. He wasn't vetting anyone. He couldn't care less who they were. He's an absolute disgrace and has blood on his hands. And now, we must now re-examine every single alien who's entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden. Watch what my father had to say about it.
Afghanistan, a hellhole on earth. He was flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021 on those infamous flights that everybody was talking about. Nobody knew who was coming in. Nobody knew anything about it. His status was extended under legislation signed by President Biden, a disastrous president, the worst in the history of our country. This attack underscores the single greatest national security threat facing our nation. The last administration let in 20 million unknown and unvetted foreigners from all over the world, from places that you don't want to even know about. No country can tolerate such a risk to our very survival. An example is Minnesota, where hundreds of thousands of Somalians are ripping off our country and ripping apart that once great state. Billions of dollars are lost, and gangs of Somalians come from a country that doesn't even have a government, no laws, no water, no military, no nothing. As their representatives in our country preach to us about our Constitution and how our country is no good. We're not going to put up with these kind of assaults on law and order by people who shouldn't even be in our country. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them. America will never bend and never yield in the face of terror. And at the same time, we will not be deterred from the mission these service members were so nobly fulfilling. That is why tonight I can announce that I have directed the Department of War to mobilize an additional 500 troops to help protect our capital city. We will make America totally safe again, and we will bring the perpetrator of this barbaric attack to swift and certain justice if the bullets going in the opposite direction haven't already done that. During this time of the year, when we gather at home with loved ones, these two patriots will...
And speaking of holding people accountable, the Trump White House just launched something that's long past due. A brand new website called Media Offender of the Week. And that calls out the fake news, the worst of them, in real time. It details media malpractice sentence by sentence, headline by headline, word by word. And all you have to do is go to whitehouse.gov/media bias. And guess guys, who the first offender of the weeks are. CBS News, the Boston Globe, and the Independent, which is, let's just say, anything but independent. All for their biased coverage of this very sedition scandal that we've been talking about. The website also includes a Hall of Shame listing for other media outlets with a history of left-wing lunacy, mischaracterization, circular reporting, and outright false claims. And who's on that list? You guessed it, guys. MS Now, that's MSNBC, what they're calling themselves these days, CNN, The Washington Post, CBS News, The New York Times, and USA Today. Guys, it's the usual suspects, but you get to see in real time just how bad it actually is. And I'm sure there will be an entire section solely devoted to ABC's The View. Speaking of which, The View today had yet another piece of hard-hitting news coverage, wondering if these narco-terrorists are even really all that bad. I mean, you can't make it up. I mean, it's really special. I mean, like, especially stupid, but like, man, are narco-terrorists really all that bad? I mean, fentanyl only kills 100,000 Americans a year. I mean, is it really all that bad, guys? Here's host Sarah Haynes with the hard-hitting news coverage of the week.
Say, okay, enough is enough.
Well, I know this is why those Democratic vets put out that video last week that people said, why would they need to say what's already obvious, that, military personnel, they don't need to, they can refuse to act on an illegal order. And people were like, yeah, but there's nothing like that. Well, this is a situation where there were clearly in the cameras 2 men on parts of the explosion, and then they're killed. So the likelihood of this is it's not a war. We're not at war with Venezuela, but it's murder. It's flat out murder. And anyone that acted on those orders could be held on war crimes. Am I?
And the most ironic thing about this is, so he's doing all of this against Venezuela. And let me just be clear, Nicolás Maduro in Venezuela is a horrible, cruel, corrupt dictator. The day he leaves, whether it is to a hellhole somewhere or if he dies and goes to hell, I will be very happy. But I think America needs to ask themselves, do we want to perpetrate regime change in the region? Donald Trump is trying to convince Americans that this is about fighting drugs, and this is because Maduro released crazy people, opened up the jails and the insane asylums and sent people here. That second part is flat out lies. There is no evidence of that. On the drug aspect, very little of the drugs that go through Venezuela actually come to the United States. That is not the preferred path for drug dealers. The preferred path actually goes through the Pacific coast, through Central America. And you know what Trump did this weekend? He announced he was going to pardon the former...
Now, big picture, guys, remember, this comes after the fake news had been getting crushed in court. The BBC had to apologize to President Trump after they got caught doctoring, literally doctoring his January 6th speech, splicing together clips that were 54 minutes apart to make it look like he encouraged a riot. 2 top BBC officials resigned over it. ABC News paid $15 million or so to settle a defamation lawsuit, and Paramount settled a $10 billion lawsuit over their deceptively edited 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. The fake news is finally being held accountable, and this new website is just another tool to expose their lies in real time. For too long, these outlets have gotten away with spreading propaganda disguised as journalism. They need to answer for it. If you check out the website for yourself, just go to whitehouse.gov/media bias, okay? MEDIABAIS, okay? Check it out. Now let me tell you why this sedition scandal matters so much right now. Because we have a real threat to our hemisphere sitting just off our coast, and Democrats are trying to sabotage our ability to deal with it. Maduro, the leader of the cartel, the leader and the guy who got crushed in last year's election, right? Remember when he lost to Maria Corina Machado? It didn't matter. You know, she was the leading opposition candidate, so they shut it down. Who cares? He stayed in power. Now my father gave Maduro an ultimatum. Leave Venezuela now, or something else will happen. Check out DJT.
On Venezuela, sir, are you planning to talk to Nicolás Maduro?
I might talk to him, we'll see, but we're discussing that with the different staffs. We might talk about Venezuela.
Interesting enough, the U.S. this week did, of course, name him the leader of a foreign terrorist organization. So why do you want to talk to him?
Say it again.
Maduro, the U.S. Designated him the leader of this foreign terrorist organization. Why do you want to talk to him if he's the leader?
Or if we can save lives, if we can do things the easy way, that's fine. And if we have to do it the hard way, that's fine too.
Mr. President, do you have any reaction?
Well, I'm not going to tell you what the goal is. You should probably know what the goal is, but they've caused a lot of problems. And they've sent millions of people into our country. They were probably the biggest abuser with Tren de Aragua and all the others that they sent in, the drug dealers, the drug lords, the people that they sent in, the jumper. They opened their jails and prisons and dumped them into the United States. And we're not happy about it.
Maduro reportedly said he would leave, but only if he could still control the military while in exile. Which is not exactly how this is supposed to work, guys. And look, we've been told by the so-called elites for decades that we've got to support endless wars in the Middle East, and that it was, then it was Ukraine. But the second we start focusing on our own neighborhoods, Democrats start barking about illegal orders. I mean, I don't get it. And I get just as much. No one wants to be in another never-ending war, even in our own hemisphere. But stopping narco-terrorists? Stopping drug dealers? Stopping fentanyl? Something that'll save hundreds of thousands of Americans a year? Think about that. That has to stop now. And just to state the facts, the Trump administration has designated the Cartel de las Solas as a foreign terrorist organization. Okay, that's a clear and present danger to the United States. And based on the numbers, it's far more dangerous to Americans than anything else we've been fighting and funding for the last few decades. This cartel turned Venezuela's state oil company into a narcotics trafficking and money laundering operation. They use Venezuelan military jets to bring drugs from Colombia, process it in Venezuela, and move it into Central America, and then onto the United States and Europe. And what are Democrats doing? They're making videos telling our troops to disobey orders when it comes to going after the narco-terrorists. That's why this sedition scandal is so dangerous. It's not just politics. It's putting American lives at risk. The Venezuelan people already voted Maduro out in elections. They protested peacefully. They lobbied for international support, and Maduro stole the election anyway, and then brutally cracked down on his own people. So Democrats trying to undermine our military at this critical moment should be ashamed of themselves. And remember, we're seeing this sort of subversion from the left on issue after issue. They're not just undermining the military, they're undermining public safety in every major city. Last week, we told you about all the insanity in Chicago where left-wing judge named Teresa Molina Gonzalez freed a career criminal with 72 arrests. And he allegedly set a 26-year-old woman on fire on a CTA Blue Line train. Think about that. The victim is Bethany McGee. According to the latest updates from her family, she has burns on over 60% of her body and is still currently hospitalized. The career criminal, Lawrence Reed, was supposed to be on electronic monitoring with a curfew, but the judge gave him 40 hours a week to roam the streets instead of the 16 required by law. 40 hours, like a full work week, that he could just roam the streets doing what, a 72-time convicted criminal probably would do. This monster should have been behind bars a long time ago, but a left-wing judge put him back out on the streets, even after the prosecutors objected and warned the judge that he was dangerous. Court transcripts show that risk assessments flagged Reed for likely violent reoffending. I mean, kind of a big one, right? The court transcripts say he's a likely violent reoffender, okay? Prosecutors told the judge he was a threat to the community. And the judge said, quote, "I can't keep everyone in jail because the state's attorney wants me to." Well, now, an innocent woman is fighting for her life with severe burns over the majority of her body. This is the difference between pro-public safety and pro-crime. But left-wing establishments, they totally ignore the radicalism coming from the Democrat politicians. Just look at the lunatic running in tomorrow's special congressional election in Tennessee's 7th District, Democrat Afton Ben. Okay? And guys, if you're in Tennessee and if you're in the 7th District or you know someone in that district or you even know someone in Tennessee who may be in that district, call them. Make sure they get out and vote. Our superpower as conservatives is to sit it out. To say, we got what we wanted in the big one for president and we're going to set everything else out. You may end up with this lunatic representing you. So Tennessee, call everyone you know. If you know someone in the 7th District, get out there and vote. Call them. Apathy will let this person be in charge, right? Last week, we showed you a tape of Afton Ben openly condemning women who get married and have families. I mean, seems a little insane. She was claiming it's a tool of the patriarchy, Well, the highlight reel keeps on coming. Because in a newly resurfaced video, she's fantasizing about a world with no police. Check this out.
Well, I'm currently involved in a transformative justice seminar, and so it's how to imagine a world without police and what that looks like and what community mechanisms look like, how people can not police themselves, but what, for example, if you experience sexual assault, like what is the reconciliation process and what does transformative justice look like? Because as we know, like you can't take those things to court. Like, our legal system is terrible when it comes to retribution. So anyways, all that to say is that I hope all of you, so one, I'll have a podcast on it and I highly recommend, if it's been difficult for all of you to imagine a world without police, please tune in to maybe not this episode, but the next one, because I'll talk about, things I'm learning and growing as an organizer, because I think, especially for those of us, that are young, and talking to our parents about what police abolition looks like, that, we can do it and there is a world.
And by the way, she's also called Tennessee a racist state and said that sororities at Southern colleges are a staple of white supremacy. Okay, this is not someone who should be representing anyone in Tennessee or, frankly, anyone in any sane place anywhere in the world. This is who Democrats are putting forward as a serious candidate. This is the stuff they actually believe. They just may not be ballsy enough to voice it. This one is, and she's running, and it's close. The election is tomorrow, and polling shows it's neck and neck. The Republican running against her is Matt Van Epps, okay? Again, get out there and vote for Matt Van Epps, Tennessee 7. If you know anyone who may be anywhere near that district, call them. Make sure they turn up, or you're going to end up with this insane person representing you in Congress. I can assure you she does not share your values. She will not represent you well. She will be a disaster. And all this delusion has real consequences and real impacts on everyday life across your states, cities, towns, and your wallet. And we're learning even more now about the massive Minnesota welfare fraud scandal and how millions of taxpayer dollars were stolen and funneled to a Somalia-based terror group, Al-Shabaab. I mean, think about that. Your taxpayer dollars sent into Minnesota ultimately ends up in the hands of Al-Shabaab? A bombshell new report from the Manhattan Institute details how billions have been stolen from Minnesota taxpayers during the Walz administration. Remember Timmy Walz, the governor, almost VP, on the Kamala Harris ticket? The fraud involves Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services Program and the infamous Feeding Our Future scandal, where funds designated for aid to the needy were siphoned off and sent back overseas to Somalia. One confidential source told investigators, and I quote, "The largest funder of Al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer." Think about that. Let that sink in. Watch.
This next story should be a wake-up call to all Americans, however. Over the weekend, the president calling Minnesota a hub of fraudulent activity and ending protected status for Somalis living in Minnesota, after a new study by independent journalist Chris Rufo exposed a spectacular Somali fraud ring stealing millions and tens of millions of dollars from Medicaid and sending that money back to the motherland to support their friends, their families, or to just outright fund terrorism in a very dangerous Islamic country. The money stolen was designated to help the autistic children in the state of Minnesota, where federal funding had to increase from $3 million to nearly $400 million in just 5 years, in large part because of this scam. Hundreds of millions of dollars. 41 to 326, in large part because of this scam, claims that 1 in 16 Somalian 4-year-olds had been diagnosed with autism, a rate that would have been more than triple the average. This was a seriously complex scam involving a lot of people. It's despicable. These are people that came here as refugees and then figure out how to scam the system even further. A lot of them lied to get into the country, lied about who they had married just to get in. They get here and they start stealing from us and sending it back home. The president responding, get the hell out. Ilhan Omar responding to Trump today.
Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation. Not only are we not going anywhere, we are not going to allow anybody to make us feel less Minnesotan or less American.
Okay. Yes, non-English speaking Somalians on welfare are the fabric of American society. How have we survived so long without them, I wonder?
And this has been going on for years under Tim Walz's watch. But here's where it gets even worse, guys. Just this weekend, more than 480 employees of the Minnesota Department of Human Services came forward and dropped another bombshell. They're saying Tim Walz is, quote, 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota. Check it out.
Kane Pence is cautious when he takes a step.
I'm physically hurting, but I'm sharp mentally.
Pence relies on assistance from the Minnesota Department of Human Services ICS program for daily care and housing needs.
And I would say, hey, I need help with these things. Do it yourself. I need help with groceries. Take a lift. Well, I can take a lift, but it's pretty hard when I have my cane in one hand.
Last year, Pence alleges his provider wasn't giving him the full care that he was entitled to through ICS.
I reached out to the state. Yeah, I called the state. They have a maltreatment line.
These letters show Pence filed complaints with DHS back in October and then in May. The DHS Inspector General's office wrote in part, after carefully reviewing all the information you provided and gathering some additional information, your report was referred to the Program Integrity Oversight Division with the Department of Human Services for fraud review. In this August 29th email to 5 Eyewitness News, a DHS spokesperson wrote in part, to protect the integrity of our investigations, we do not disclose active fraud investigations unless the DHS commissioner determines it will not impede the investigation. We cannot confirm if there is an active investigation into American Home Healthcare LLC. At the time, the state did confirm open licensing complaints against the provider.
I wanted to make sure that those emails had come through to you, and I wanted to get your side too.
Jama Muhammad runs the care provider that was paid tax dollars to help Pence. We asked him about Pence's allegations.
I'm just asking you about the allegations he raised that there were services he wasn't provided during this time.
He do that. That guy, he complaining. Everybody, all his life, he's been complaining.
He raised allegations that you billed the state of Minnesota for services that were not provided.
That is not true. I don't have any active...
You spoke to the state about these allegations.
Yes.
And what did you tell the state?
That's not your business.
Muhammad's business received more than $1 million last year from DHS and more than $1.6 million in 2025 paid from a mix of state and federal tax dollars, according to a state website. Since we first reached out to DHS, we found this new correction order. DHS alleges the care company paid to help Pence and others violated Minnesota statutes. In Pence's case, investigators wrote the license holder did not provide services as assigned in the support plan. DHS alleges in mid-September of last year, when Pence wasn't at the complex, staff timesheets indicated that staff provided services during this time frame. Investigators wrote there were multiple instances between June 30th of 2024 and October 5th, 2024, that the client did not receive services or was only provided partial help.
This is not investigation.
We asked Mohammed to explain more.
So all the services you billed the state of Minnesota for
him, it's a true, and he don't even want it.
You provided those services.
Yes.
Mohammed's company was given time to dispute the state's findings. 7 citations were issued, not just for Pence, but others in the ICS provider's care. The state requires the problems to be corrected. We still don't know the status of the alleged fraud review mentioned in the Inspector General's May letter to Pence. Meanwhile, a House Fraud Prevention Committee staffer met with Pence to learn more about his allegations.
These are government workers in a Democrat state who work for Walz's own administration. And they're saying he's not only knowing of the fraud, he knew about it, but that he covered it up and retaliated against whistleblowers who tried to stop it. Think about that. Please, think about it. Think of how insane this all is. Let me read you some of what they said. Quote, "We let Tim Walz know of the fraud early on, hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud. But no, we got the opposite response. Tim Walz systematically retaliated against whistleblowers using monitoring, threats, repression, and did his best to discredit fraud reports." They continue. "Agency leaders appointed by Tim Walz willfully disregarded rules and laws to keep fraud reports quiet, even to the extent of threatening families of whistleblowers." Threatening the families of whistleblowers? This is like something out of a third world dictatorship, perhaps like Somalia, where I guess Tim Walz feels a little bit more comfortable and seems very willing to send Minnesota taxpayer dollars to. And you guessed it, folks, it gets worse. They said these same leaders are not qualified for their jobs, instead getting leadership jobs via Tim Walz's friendship. So state governments were left floundering. So Walz was handing out cushy government jobs to his buddies while billions were being stolen and funneled to terrorists. I mean, you can't make it up. It's like a scary version of South Park. So not only was the money being stolen, Walz was lying about the state's finances to cover it up, it seems. My father was asked about some of his choice but important words that he used to describe Tim Walz. And let's just say he did not disappoint.
In that same post, you mentioned Tim Walz, and you called him what many Americans do find inoffensive or retarded. Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz retarded?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with him. Absolutely, sure.
But you don't think
You have a problem with him? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into his state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Yeah, there's something wrong with Walz.
And when Walz was asked about this on Meet the Press this weekend, because of course they'll platform him despite these allegations, he couldn't even give a straight answer. He deflected and tried to blame, you guessed it, guys, drum roll please, Donald Trump. Under Tim Walz, Minnesota is literally funding terrorism through welfare fraud at the expense of the Minnesota taxpayer. This is what Tim Walz's America Last Minnesota agenda looks like.
Of dollars in taxpayer money out of the country. Lou Raguse has a look at the brand new charges today.
The 74th person to be charged in the $300 million Feeding Our Future meal fraud case, Ahmed Naji Sheikh, is the brother of one of the most notorious defendants, Abdi Aziz Farah, who was recently sentenced to 28 years in prison. Farah was convicted with a group of others of stealing $50 million of taxpayer money. Now his brother Sheikh is accused of helping him launder that money.
Now, in any normal country, this would cause a major backlash from the native population. But liberals actually want this. This is the greatest form of social justice. And anyone else who dares to speak out against programs getting robbed that are meant to feed hungry children are silenced and called bigots and racist and intolerant. And when you understand the entire game plan, it starts to make sense. Did you guys know that 25% of Somalia's GDP comes from remittance, money being sent from the United States to Somalia? So the strategy is to steal money from the American taxpayer, give Somali residents free housing, free food, free school, free healthcare, give them such a comfortable lifestyle that they can afford to have 4 or 5 children, while the native-born population struggles to have 1, 2 if they're lucky. And then as their population outgrows the native population, they have more political power. And then they can enact legislation that exclusively benefits Somali people. And the money that's not exclusively for them, they can just steal it through fraud. And the more money they get, the more they send back to Somalia, because that is their goal. You heard the guy say it at the Ilhan Omar rally. But speaking of Ilhan Omar, someone who openly hates America and declares her allegiance for a foreign country, here she is going to a church and berating a bunch of white people for liking Charlie Kirk, a man who stood up for America instead of Somalia.
I do believe those of you who are interested in rewriting this hateful man's history are full of shit.
Thank you. It is despicable that church would allow her to do that. And what's up with white liberals loving foreigners, telling them how evil they are for caring about their country? Ilhan Omar knows that their plan has succeeded. They have successfully beat the residents of Minnesota into ideological submission. Minnesotans, I guess, have just adopted the belief that their sole purpose in life is to serve the interests of Somalia. And Charlie Kirk, a man who stood up for America and American values, has to be characterized as an evil, awful person, and that's why Ilhan Omar goes on CNN, mocks Charlie Kirk's death, and says he belongs in the dustbin of history. Watch.
What I find jarring is that there's so many people willing to excuse the most reprehensible things that he said, that they agree with that they're willing to have monuments for him, that they want to create a day to honor him, and that they want to produce resolutions.
But again, to Democrats, fraud is just a part of doing business. It's how they operate. It's at the center of how they gain power. They steal the money. They use it to stay in power. It's a perfect scam. My father has now ordered green cards from Somalia and 18 other countries of concern to be re-examined. It's about time. I love this. And he ended the temporary protected status for Somali residents, saying, quote, Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of that great state, and billions of dollars are missing. Send them back to where they came from. It's over. I mean, guys, that's a big deal, guys. It's huge even, okay? Look, the big picture here is clear. Democrats are undermining our military with scripted sedition videos at the exact moment when we need to confront a narco-terrorist dictator in Venezuela who's funding Hezbollah and poisoning our streets with drugs. They're enabling violent criminals to walk free while innocent people are set on fire. They're funneling your tax dollars to terrorists overseas and retaliating against whistleblowers who try to stop it. Their own people in their own administrations. Meanwhile, the fake news covers it and covers for them at every turn, which is why the White House is finally holding them accountable with a new Media Offender of the Week website. This isn't a political party anymore. This is a movement dedicated to destruction of everything that made America great. That's who the Democrat Party is at this point. But the good news is this. Americans are waking up. The Trump administration is fighting back. The fake news is being exposed, and we're delivering wins, okay? Make sure you recognize that. You're not going to hear that from the fake news. You're not going to hear that in the narrative. You're not going to hear that on the accounts from X, based in Somalia, pretending to be a MAGA guy that thinks things are going wrong, okay? You saw what happened when X started opening up where these people are coming from. You see, the narrative is bought and paid for. Make sure you guys are deciding for yourselves. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in as always. Remember to like, to share, to subscribe. Hit the like button now. It's a really big deal. Share with your friends. Check us out on Apple and Spotify podcasts. If you missed the show here on Rumble, if you have friends that get their podcast that way, make sure they're doing the same. Subscribe there, like, share it with other people. We need to get this word out. Check out our sponsors for having the guts to support this kind of programming. Okay, they're down below. They're in the video description. Make sure to support those who have the guts to support and perpetuate your values. It's a really big deal. Thank you guys, and I'll see you all again very soon.